Welcome to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. You can send questions for each show on Twitter using the hashtag IndieBeacon. Now sit back and enjoy learning about our guest for this show.
Hi, this is Rox Burkey, and I am so excited tonight to be able to talking to Dr. Mara Karpel. I'm so sorry I messed that up. Thank you for joining. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on this program and giving me a chance to share my passion with your listeners.
I know, it's just wonderful having an international best-selling author in your book, The Passionate Life. I mean, that's amazing. But before we get into your book, how about you share with our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Well, I'm a clinical psychologist, and I have had a practice I've had my license for over 27 years.
Wow.
Yeah, hard to believe it's been that long. Working with adults of all ages. And my specialty for many years, and even in graduate school, was working with older adults and caregivers. And then I had a practice that was adults of all ages, young adults as well. And for the past few years have been working with veterans who have PTSD and other service-connected mental health conditions. I have a radio show, an internet radio show. It was on Austin Radio for 2 years, and now it's on Blog Talk Radio, Dr. Mara Karpel and Your Golden Years. And I've been writing, I'm a regular contributor to Arianna Huffington's ThriveGlobal.com and several other blog platforms, in addition to writing this book and doing public speaking, and now trying to inspire other people to live their passionate life now that I have found my passion.
I think that's that's amazing. You have so much going on. I'm sure your schedule is beyond busy. So I guess the question for you is, how did you decide to write this book, The Passionate Life, creating vitality and joy at any age? What was the driver?
Well, I always wanted to write a book. And when I started my show and I started interviewing all of these great thought leaders in the area of aging and joyfulness, I realized that I really wanted to write about that and my own journey. I had found my passion at the age of 50 in starting this radio show, and I really wanted to write about that journey. And one of the guests on my show happened to be a writing coach, so that helped. I asked her to coach me in finding my voice because, I was used to writing academically, and I wanted to write for, not boring, something that wasn't boring for people to read. And I started writing about my own journey in addition to what my experience as a psychologist, as well as what I had been learning through my guests on the program, and discovered that writing became a passion of mine as well. But this was something that I didn't realize that I really love to do.
Well, and it really sounds like your passions are just helping people and using the different mediums to be able to do that.
Yeah. Through my work, what I've discovered with working with people, so many different groups, so many various groups, that the common theme with a young adult, an older adult in a nursing home, a veteran who has PTSD, that the common theme is that when people are living their purpose and they have meaning in their life and they're enjoying what they're doing and they feel like they're contributing to the greater good, so to speak, that they're more resilient to the stresses of life, that's what helps them get through the painful times. And that actually is what happened to me. I found that following my passion has been my North Star, even through some of the darker parts of my journey.
Well, and I think I think to your point, every one of us has a certain amount of grayness or darkness in their journey that they have to do something about. So this particular book and how you put it together, was there an initial audience that you were trying to talk to, or was it more or sharing your insights of yourself?
Well, I think when I started writing it, my coach said to me, think of the person, the ideal person that you're writing for, and many other people will read it as well. And so I started, since I was writing about my journey, I pictured a woman my age reading the book. Someone who maybe had followed their career path for many years, the path that they felt that they was supposed to follow, or somebody who had raised their children and now their children were out of the house, or were taking care of, they were caregivers, and now that was no longer an issue for them, and they started to wonder who they really were and what was the meaning of their life now at this point of their journey.
So I actually have several people that I know that have suffered from PTSD. So how does this book really hit home with some of those veterans?
Well, it wasn't specifically for veterans. I have to say that it doesn't really address PTSD specifically, but I do feel that when people are in a state of PTSD, their mind is really focused on the past and reliving over and over the past. And this book is really about being present focused. There's a lot of meditation in there and moving forward. Now what's next? And coming up with new ways to feel joyful in your life. And it's a very holistic book approach. So it does address, health issues, diet, exercise, sleep, meditation, stress management, dealing with physical pain. There's a chapter about physical pain because those things can be obstacles to living a passionate life, of course, and dealing with our own anxiety and our inner troll, as I call it. So I think that, people, it's not specific to PTSD, but people with PTSD certainly would benefit from some of those chapters in the book.
So it sounds like, and I have to be honest, I've skimmed the book, but I haven't read it from end to end, but it sounds to me like it would be most valuable to refer to over and over, especially the areas that hit home for whoever has consumed it. It's not just a once and set it on the shelf and say, okay, that was a nice book, I'm so glad it's there. There's real working steps that can be applied, it sounds like.
Yes. And, when I pictured the book, before I started writing it, I really pictured that it would have very short chapters so that people didn't feel like they, were overwhelmed by a chapter. There's a lot of short chapters, but you can open at any point of the book and get something out of the chapter that you open to. And to have exercises and experiential routines that people can do to benefit from it. So, and that's been the feedback that a lot of the people who have read the book have told me, that they reread certain sections of the book again and again because they feel like that's the area that they really need to work on, or that they really felt spoke to them when they read the book the first time. But you don't really have to read it cover to cover. It's,
Well, and to be honest, when I glanced through it in the areas that I was in, it was just the general tools to help relieve stress home for me. I mean, that's an area where, maybe it's common for a lot of women my age, but you know, things get to me, so I can't let that happen. And I thought the tools that were in there were marvelous to help refocus and revector your thoughts.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. And I have to be honest with you, Roxanne, and I even wrote this in the book, that perhaps that was the biggest section of the book because it's something that I personally need to work on myself. So pretty much everything that I've written in the book are things that I've worked on myself and continue to. I'm a work in process, and I'm honest about that in the book. So, well,
I'm glad that I'm in great company then, because I'm continually a work in progress. Now, you do your radio show, and you mentioned that, but you also do speaking.
Yes.
Groups, right? What kind of groups seem to want you to come speak to them? Do you have a specific type?
Well, I was just invited. I just recently did a keynote on South Padre Island for a group of healthcare professionals who work in end-of-life facilities. And it was hosted by an end-of-life facility, a palliative care home in Brownsville, Texas, but it was for all of the Rio Grande Valley. And it was a symposium on stress management. So they asked me to speak to on the issue of preventing burnout. So I spoke about following your passion to prevent burnout. I'm also doing a speaking event down in Brownsville, in that area again, at a Unity church that invited me to speak. I'm not exactly sure what they want, but I think it's similar. I think there are a lot of caregivers in that congregation, and so they're looking for help in dealing with the stress of caregiving. I've done a lot of talks about just how optimism is good for your health, and I'm going up to New York and meeting with actually a group of nuns who are in.
How fun! I bet they have stress.
The convent that's on a college campus. It's a Catholic college campus. The convent is actually now an independent and assisted living for retired nuns.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we're going to do is, Mira, we're at this breaking point. We want to get a little listen to our sponsors. But when we come back, I kind of want to go down that path a little longer, because I think that's very important. So please stick around.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, Brakefield and Burkey here, award-winning authors for the Techno Thrillers books, the Enigma book series. Technology, today's weapon of choice, the cyber good guys versus the cyber bad guys.
We invite you to join our website, theenigmaseries.com, where you will get sample chapters, sample audibles, book trailers, and you can sign up for our mailing list. The books are available in ebook, paperback, and Audible. Thank you.
National Authors Day is November 2nd, 2019 in Houston, Texas. Join us at Discovery Green as we celebrate being a published author and remind the world of the great books that writers constantly create for your enjoyment. You can register at authors.dearindy.org. Tom Gromes, father of market intelligence, writing business books that are a game changer. International author of nonfiction, has written the first and only books on the collapse of Russia and the first and only book on market intelligence. Check them out at mkintel.org. That's mkintel.org, mkintel.org.
Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us, follow us, or subscribe to one of our many channels. Now, here is your host for today's show.
Hi, I'm Rox Burkey, and I am back. And thankfully, I have Dr. Mira Karpel here with me, the international best-selling book of the passionate life, creating vitality and joy at any age. And we were talking about some of your speaking that you're doing, and the whole caregiving aspect that you want to make sure and share. And the nuns, that's an interesting perspective, because I always think of them as being, very, very passionate, but boy, oh boy, they have to have some stress.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So, I'm from New York, and I used to work in the New York area in nursing homes. And one of the nursing homes, in fact, was a Catholic nursing home where a lot of the residents were nuns. And that was really eye-opening for me, because I'm not Catholic, and I hadn't spent a lot of time with nuns, and hadn't really thought of them as being on the other end of the caregiving. They're usually the caregivers. But
well, I think that as the population shifts and many of the, quote unquote baby boomers that are getting a little up there, caregiving is very real for a lot of young people. So it sounds like your speaking would be really good to help share some of the things that can go on. Is that an avenue you are pursuing as well?
yes, and I've been speaking to caregivers for many years, having worked in nursing homes and in independent and assisted living for quite a bit of my career. So very often I was asked to speak with the caregivers and the families on how to deal with the stress of caregiving. That's really the focus that I take, is the stress of caregiving. Caregivers have a much higher rate of physical illness than the average population, as well as a higher rate of depression and anxiety. So it's very real, and very often caregivers end up getting too sick to take care of the people that they care for because of the stress. So finding ways to manage that stress is really, really important.
Do you see in your experience a shift going to more families trying to be their own caregivers for parents and grandparents and that, rather than having them in a home or in a facility?
I don't know if I see a shift that way, but I know that it happens when people run out of money, which is a big issue. Finances are huge. Also, people feel guilty having their family member in a facility, but I'm not sure that it's shifting that way. I can't say that. I don't know the statistics on that. But even if you have a family member who is in a facility, and especially if they're in a long-term care facility like nursing home, skilled care, there's a lot of stress on the family member. And if you're not involved, a lot of things can go wrong. Even in assisted living, a lot of things can go wrong if you're not there. So even if your person that you're taking care of is not physically living in your house, you're still a caregiver. They could still be across the country and you're still a caregiver. My mom is 90 and lives in an assisted living in New York. I have a brother who lives up there, but very often he calls me to kind of figure out what to do next with my mom, and I fly up there whenever I need to make sure that everything is running smoothly. He takes some of the responsibility being there physically, but I take care of a lot of the other things on the phone calls that need to be made and things of that sort, checking in with my mom every single day.
There you go.
Yeah.
So you mentioned before that, this is part of your professional career and all of those things that come along with being a clinical psychologist, and then going down this passion of yours to write the book and work on the radio show. So how has this changed your life, getting these things done? How have You changed.
It's brought more joy into my life. When I started on this path of being a psychologist, I felt like I knew that this was what I was supposed to be doing. And I have always felt that way. But for several years, I would get woken up in the middle of the night by what I call my soul's whisper. I've heard that expression from someone else and it fits, that there was something more that I really felt that I was supposed to be doing, something that tapped into my creativity and, but still related to helping people. And I just didn't know what it was. So when I found this and started, when I started doing the radio show, we did a practice in South Texas several years ago where I just did like 30-minute show that was pre-recorded. And I remember sitting with the headphones on next to the producer. And all of a sudden I had this flashback of when I was 10 years old and I had my little tape recorder in my bedroom doing my own radio show.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. I like that.
And so I realized, wow, this is, that maybe this is what I'm really supposed to be doing. Like it's tapping into that creativity. And as I mentioned it, doing the show, getting to interview all these amazing people, getting to speak about things that I've learned, and writing my book, writing blogs. This has been my North Star. So, my dad passed away about almost 4 years ago. I'm losing track of time. It was a very dark time, even though he was already 93, but I was very close with him. But I really feel that when I started writing again after he died, and I started doing the show again, I really feel like that's what brought me back to being able to feel joy in spite of pain. And I learned that you can feel joyful even when you have grief, even when you have pain that really, when you lose someone you love, it never really goes away.
Right.
But you can feel joy at the same time, and they can live together in your heart. So it's really been like it's what gets me up in the morning now. I just love doing it. It's so much fun.
Good. People should have fun. So you're going to do a speaking engagement at the church.
Yes.
Are there other events that the general public could come and see you and listen to you?
Right now, I don't have anything scheduled. I'm looking to do some more book signings. I've done a few here in Austin and in Colorado Springs. I'm looking to do some more. I'm certainly open to anybody who wants to hire me to do a speaking engagement because I love doing that. And people can listen to my radio show every Sunday. And they can listen on podcasts. It's live on Sundays, and then it goes to a podcast. And it lives on the internet forever.
There you go. Nothing dies on the internet.
Right.
So what is your website so that people can get some additional information?
Okay, so my website, which is a one-stop shop for my radio show, my blogs, my book. They could buy my book there or go to Amazon. They can read all my blogs for all the different publications. They can watch videos that I've made. It's drmarakarpel.com. So it's DrMarakarp, as in Peter, EL.com.
Perfect. And we're unfortunately ready for another pause here to hear from our sponsors. And then we're going to come back, and I really want to talk a little bit more about your blog. So stick around.
All right, thanks.
What would you do if you had to put your life on hold to parent your parents? You have to laugh to keep from crying how to parent your parents is a must-read book full of antidotes and practical advice to help parenting your parents. Author Charlotte Kenyon provides insights to help prepare anyone facing the challenges of caring for elderly parents. Check out our website at www.howtoparentyourparents.net.
What would you do if you found out everyone on the town council were thieves and murderers? That's what happened in Bandera, Texas in 1873. John Cruder was the marshal, yet he needed to operate outside the law in order to balance the scales of justice. He is the Midnight Marauder. You can find his books on Amazon.com and TopWesterns.com in paperback, digital, and audio. I'm Roy Clinton, and I hope you'll read The Midnight Marauder.
Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us, follow us, or subscribe to one of our many channels. Now, here is your host for today's show.
Thank you for sticking with us. This is Rox Burkey, and I'm here with Dr. Mara Karpel. I'm so glad to have found out all about you, but we talked about your blogs when we left, so I want to kind of explore that. I know that your podcast and radio is on every Sunday, I believe you said, but when do you do your blogs, and how do I go read them?
Well, I have a regular spot in Ariana Huffington's Thrive Global. So that's her health and wellness publication.
Okay.
And I post them on my website and also on my Facebook page, which is Dr. Mara Karpel, Your Golden Years on Facebook. So that's the main, everything, all the other platforms where I post my blog are really all copies of what I put on Thrive Global, because that's the main one. I post it there first, and then it goes everywhere else from there. Medium.
Oh, that's good.
East. And now I'm posting. I was just invited to write. So there may be a few that are unique to another website that I was invited to write for, which is Break the Silence for Domestic Violence. So I'll be writing for them as well.
Now, I know you mentioned that people can find the, source of truth off of your website, which I believe you said was, see if I get this right, drmarakarpel.com.
That's it.
Okay, so that's really easy and people should go there. Now, I know when people do blogs, a lot of times, especially in the role that you're in, you must have a lot of people asking questions. Is that something you encourage?
I do encourage people to ask questions. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you get ideas on new topics from some of those questions that are posed?
I'm always getting new ideas from my listeners of the show and people that read the blogs and anybody that I speak to when I do public speaking. I have a whole list. I keep a notebook and I have a whole list that I'm going through and trying to address at this point.
So that brings up my next question. So you are writing all the time. Does this mean you're also putting together maybe another book?
I do, yes. I consider this my first book. So okay. I do plan to write more books. But this launch process takes quite a bit of time. The book came out in print last September, and I feel like I'm still in the launch process. So I don't think that I'm ready to write the next book yet, but I'm putting together ideas for the next book. And certainly the blogs the way that I wrote this book was that I used my blogs as a jumping off point. So all of the additional blogs that I'm writing will sort of be the little spark for chapters in the next book.
Very good. And so you do your blogs and you do your your podcast radio show. Can the listeners of that, when it's done live, call in and ask questions there as well?
They can
Because people like to ask, you know.
They can call during the show.
Oh, perfect.
It's live. It's done live. So they can call, they can email during the show. And my email address is drmara@drmarakarpel.com.
So there you go. So there is an easy way to find you everywhere on Facebook, your website, drmarakarpel.com, your email, and I'm sure you're on the social media channels as well, correct?
Yes, I'm on Instagram under my name, which is, just Mara Karpel. I'm on Twitter. It's Maraek. So it's Mara EK on Twitter.
Okay. And other than your website, oh, sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's on my website. Yeah.
Other than your website, where else can people buy your book and get those lessons?
They can buy it from Amazon. Go to Amazon. It's on Kindle. It's in print at Amazon. They could go to barnesandnoble.com. They could go to Goodreads.
Perfect. And unfortunately, we have run out of time, but I've had such an enjoyment and a good time talking to you, Mira, and I hope to see you again soon.
Yes, thank you so much. And like
Have a
I
nice
like to say at the end of my show, youth has no age.
Ah, there you go. I like it. Thank you.
All right. Have a good evening.
You too.
Thank you for listening to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. To learn more about Indie Beacon services, to be a guest on the show, or to advertise on our show, please visit our website at indiebeacon.com. Thank you for listening to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. To learn more about Indie Beacon services, to be a guest on the show, or to advertise on our show, please visit our website at indiebeacon.com.